Welcome. Great to see you returning back to the Virtual Y Studio. Chance here with a nice yoga practice to center your attention on the present moment, to ask your body what it needs, and to simply be in the moment. Uncomfortable, comfortable, find a balance of the two things. But with this practice, we don't want to find any pain. If anything hurts or has shooting sharp discomfort, ease off. We don't need to do anything too hard. In fact, the whole reason I practice yoga is to calm my nervous system, to show my nervous system that I'm safe. And really what that takes is navigating discomfort in a new way, being patient to let sensations arise and then take what serves you and leave the rest. But by doing so, being able to observe discomfort and really be objective about it instead of feeling emotional about our discomfort or observing if you do become emotional. This is the practice of getting to know yourself. So let's start by building the breath. Sit up tall, relax the shoulders. Now you might be sitting cross-legged. You might not be able to cross your legs, and that's totally okay. You don't need to find any pain. However you sit, just make sure that your spine is long. So many ways to sit on the ground, right? Once you find a comfortable seat, sit up tall. Notice, what does it take to, what muscles do you need to engage to lengthen that low back? Then relax the shoulders away from the ears. Reach up tall through the crown of the head. Find a little space across the front of the chest, maybe by pulling the shoulders slightly back, but not way back, just slightly back. So you have a nice, broad, open chest, a nice, long spine. And just take a full breath all the way in. Let it out slowly. We're just going to do this a few times, doing nothing more than taking slow, full breaths all the way in. And full breaths all the way out. Noticing where it's comfortable, noticing where it's uncomfortable, and seeing if there's any space that's, painful, and try to ease off those spaces. You don't need to push into any pain. But notice what arises, maybe some heat, maybe some just general discomfort, and try to breathe through it all the way in and all the way out. Now that we're focusing on the breath, let's notice some details about the breath. With the inhales, try to start your inhale filling the bottom of your lungs. That's way down, imagining way down by your belly, because the diaphragm, this muscle right beneath your lungs, pulls down and makes your belly pull out, which makes your lungs have more space. So we fill from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. And then when you breathe out, don't just dump out the breath, but let it pour out from you slowly. I like to imagine a swan gliding across a smooth pond. And just that visualization, it doesn't feel like thrashing, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel rushed. It feels very controlled, very graceful. It looks beautiful in my mind. So when you breathe in, fill from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs, and keep on finding more of the bottom of the lungs and more of the top of the lungs. And when you breathe out, let it be smooth, graceful, not rushed, just, content. So now that we're getting this breath going, know that you're going to be breathing intentionally this entire practice. And you might forget, you might get distracted, and you might have to come back to the breath several times, often throughout the practice. That's all right, I'll remind you. But the breath is really the medicine. The nervous system is taking the cues of our way of being from the way that we're breathing. So remember to breathe smoothly, slowly, and be aware of what's taking place in your body that you can feel as you're breathing. One more concept we'll be using are the bandhas, the internal locks that squeeze and massage and support our body from the inside. So the first bandha, or lock in Sanskrit, is the root lock, the Mula Bandha. And we lift this, it's the same as a Kegel lift. We're drawing up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom, the pelvic floor. So we're pulling up and in from our bottom till we're squeezing and feeling a little activation in our low back. That is one lock we're going to be using. After you lift this lock as deeply as you can, notice how it feels, notice where pressure shows up, notice if it feels weak or strong or unfamiliar. Gently release that lock, relaxing it all the way, but slowly, the same way that we're breathing out, nice and smoothly, not just dumping it. The second lock we'll be using is the upward flying lock, also known as the Uddiyana Bandha. And we lift this by pulling in on the belly button and scooping upward, like we're trying to suck in our whole belly. I'll try to show you from the side. If this is relaxed, this is your Uddiyana Bandha. So you're pulling in on the belly, pulling all that up and in. And these muscles activate and then activate a bit of the spine, the mid to low back. These locks are going to be lifting and releasing in every pose, just to squeeze out, to strengthen, and to remind us that everything is connected. Our intricate design, our systems, our muscles, our skeleton, our connective tissue, the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia, and then this huge circulatory system, the veins, arteries, capillaries. It's amazing, but you don't have to understand it all working. Just feel it working and trust that your body knows what it's doing. Next, what we'll do is we'll start posing. We're already in a pose, seated on the ground. This asana, we're simply seated. If your legs are kind of crossed, it's like a half lotus. If you stack your knees, maybe that's like a fire log pose. But anyways, however you're seated, this is your pose. Next, what we're going to do is a tabletop pose. So we're going to come onto our hands and knees. If the ground is really hard and this hurts your knees, maybe you want to put a folded blanket or some type of padding underneath your knees. That's quite all right. Or you can, if you have a mat, maybe you can fold your mat over to double up how much cushion you got on your knees. But once we're on our hands and knees here, we want to spread the fingers and squeeze the hands into the mat. This is going to strengthen those muscles that might not get very much work. So we're spreading the fingers and then squeezing them into the ground. The index finger, the middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, thumb. And once we're squeezing into the ground, we're going to externally rotate the shoulders. So the elbows are pointing backwards, the biceps are pointing forwards, and our chest is slightly opening because we're gripping the ground and rolling the shoulders outward. Push the tops of the feet into the mat. And then as you're gripping the ground, traction the hands towards each other, traction the knees towards each other. Feel that work in the low back and in the chest. And take some deep, full breaths here. Use your bandhas. Let the sound of your breath be something that's very present, something that you can pay attention to. And while you're breathing, notice where it's comfortable, where it's uncomfortable, and where you can relax a little bit. Next pose we're going to take is an extended child's pose. So bring your knees a little wider on the mat. Bring your big toes to touch, and then walk your hands forward. When you walk your hands forward, press the hands into the mat. Externally rotate the shoulders. Pull the ground back towards you. Pull your spine long. Breathe very deeply. Feel your armpits working, your chest working, and feel your spine being pulled long. Bring your attention back to that big full breath, all the way down to the bottom of the belly, all the way up to the shoulder blades. Every exhale, see where you can release, where you can soften, where you can relax. Trust that all the systems of your body are repairing, are giving you what you need, whether you understand how it's working or not. If you're aware that you're breathing and aware of how you feel, whether it's uncomfortable or comfortable, you are healing. On your inhale, we're going to come back up to a tabletop. And let's take a little bit of cat-cow movement. So on your inhale, lower your belly, lift your chin, lift your chest, keep rolling those shoulders outward. On your exhale, round through the spine, tucking the tailbone, tucking the chin, hollowing out the chest. Inhales to cow pose. We're still tractioning the hands and knees towards each other. And on your exhales, cat pose. Remember, traction those hands and knees and feet into the ground towards each other. And just take some organic movement. Follow how the breath is moving, how the spine is moving. To really release some of the pressure, the tension we've been holding on to, you have to move slowly. You have to allow your body to know that it's safe. And every breath, a certain way that we're breathing, all the way in, all the way out, slowly, gracefully, is sending a message to the deepest part of our subconscious. Our nervous system itself is getting the message that we're safe. So it's releasing some of that guard that it has up, some of that tension that's been gripping. And your next exhale will return to a comfortable tabletop position. And on your inhale, let's reach the right hand high. This nice twist here. Spread all 10 fingers, squeeze the left hand into the ground. Look up toward that right hand. Slowly make some circles in that right wrist. Go clockwise, go counterclockwise. Bring those circles into your shoulder. Keep breathing very deeply. Keep using those bandhas. And on your next exhale, let's send that right hand through toward the left. Bring the right shoulder, right cheek to the mat. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Traction your hips toward the right. Option to bring your left hand around the back toward the right thigh. And breathe. Feel this pressure here. If it's too intense, ease off. Take a break. Otherwise, focus on the breath, the bandhas. Notice where this is comfortable and where it's not. On your next inhale, we'll plant that left hand, reach the right hand high. See what shifts. And exhale, bring that right hand down to the mat. Next, we'll take the left hand high when you breathe in. Spread all 10 fingers. Squeeze the right hand into the mat. Take some circles in that left hand. Oh, clockwise, counterclockwise. Feel how the fingers connect to the hand, connect to the wrist, the lower arm, the upper arm, the shoulder, the ribs. Bring some circles into the shoulders. Clockwise, counterclockwise. Keep breathing. Keep squeezing those bandhas in. On your inhale, look up toward that left hand. And exhale, thread the needle. Send the left hand through to the right. Left shoulder, left cheek to the mat. Traction the hips toward the left. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Option to bring that right hand around the back toward the left thigh if that feels good. And just focus on your breath. If there's any extreme pain, ease off. You can ease all the way out of the pose if you need to, but keep breathing. Otherwise, observe how the breath and the bandhas work together. Make you aware of this inner world. Nothing should feel too extreme. And general discomfort is okay in this practice. We just don't want any sharp, extreme discomfort or pain. We want to lean on our edge with love and patience and observation. On your next inhale, you can plant that right hand on the ground. Raise the left hand high. And exhale to a tabletop. Whew. Next, let's bring our chest to the ground. Inhale. Bring your whole body onto the ground. Stack the right hand on top of the left. Whew. And then your left cheek on top of the right hand. To engage this pose, we're going to push the tops of the feet and the fronts of the hips into the ground. Pull the shoulders away from the ears and lengthen through the crown of the head. Use those bandhas, pulling in on those internal locks. And pay attention to the size and the shape of the breath. Notice where it's challenging to breathe into. And notice that the next cycle of breath might be a little bit easier. Very subtly, we're stretching, we're creating more space, we're bringing life back to the places where we might have forgotten. Keep tractioning the arms, the elbows into the ground and pulling them back toward the body so your shoulders are pulling away from your ears. We'll take the left hand on top of the right hand and that right cheek on top of that left hand. Keep tractioning the feet and the fronts of the hips into the ground. Keep pulling the shoulder blades away from the ears. Deep breaths. When you come up, come back to that, come to this low Cobra Pose. So we're peeling our chest up off the ground, pulling forward on the heart, taking any weight out of the hands, pull in on the pelvic floor, press the tops of the feet into the mat. Just take a couple more breaths here, trying to pull that heart forward. Maybe even tuck your chin. Next, we're going to press back slowly to extended child's pose. Take a couple deep breaths. Pull the ground back towards you with the arms. Pull in on those bandhas. Squeezing deeply in to your real core, the deepest level of your core. Let's have a seat, however you smoothly transition back to seated. the inner lines of the legs stretch, called Cobbler's Pose. Bring the soles of your feet together. The further the feet are from the body, the less intense it's going to be. Every body is different, so maybe your knees are way up here, and that's as far as you can go. Maybe they're even closer together. Maybe you have a little more mobility in your knees, so you can just let gravity kind of pull your knees toward the ground, and you can adjust the intensity by how far your feet are away from your body. If you're looking for more depth still, you could keep your pinky toes together and pull your big toes away from each other so the bottoms of your feet are pointing up toward the sky. Notice your low back. Press the tailbone into the ground. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Sit up really tall. And if you're still looking for more intensity, you can lean your heart toward your feet, pulling your shoulders away from your ears. Just take a few breaths here, noticing where is the work taking place. Can you keep on making more length in the low back? Do you notice how those bandhas really make a difference when you pull in? You notice how the size and the shape of your breath really make a difference. And maybe you notice that your mind has wandered and been stuck somewhere else, thinking about who knows what, anything really. Our mind loves to wander away whenever we get uncomfortable physically. But every time you bring yourself back into your body, back into the present moment, back into the details, you notice your body is changing with every breath. And whether you notice or not, you're becoming more strong with your mind-body connection. You're growing your nervous system deeper, more densely, more connected. On your inhale, you can slowly come up. We're going to come down onto our back very slowly. If the inner lines of your legs are really worked feeling, you can use your hands to pull your knees back together. Go very slow, come down onto your back. We'll take an outer hip stretch and a back stretch here. Cross your right ankle over your left knee if that feels good. And flex that right foot so the toes are pointing back toward the right shin. You can remain here and breathe, lengthening your spine as it tractions onto the ground. Or you can even use your left hand to pull that left knee in toward the body. This pulls the right shin toward the heart. You can let your tailbone come up off the ground if there's a rounding in the spine. But keep your shoulder blades equally pinned to the ground. And use that deep breath to stretch the spine and the ribs. Use the bandhas to see how when you pull in on that pelvic floor, do you see how it relates to the low back, that outer hip. You can uncross that ankle, cross the left ankle over the right knee, pull that right knee in toward the body. Flex the left foot, draw the shoulders away from the ears. And breathe. Tuck your chin, you might find more of the back of your neck onto the ground, which might help lengthen both the cervical spine and the thoracic spine, the two upper sections of your spine where your neck and your shoulder blades are. By doing so, every breath might find just longer lines, more release, more ease. Hug both knees into the chest. Bring the knees over to the left side of the body. Reach the right hand out to the right side of the body. And press your right shoulder blade to the mat so your heart is pointing toward the sky. Point your chin toward your right hand. And breathe deeply all the way from the belly to the upper chest. Use the bandhas. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Notice how it lengthens the spine. We'll bring the knees over to the right side of the body. Left hand out to the left. Point your chin toward the left hand, left shoulder blade to the mat. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Deep breaths. In the final Shavasana, lay flat on your back, arms wide, legs wide. Soften onto the ground. Take a few deep breaths. Return to comfortably seated. Take your time. I like hugging my knees into my chest. Whatever works for you. As you sit up tall, just take one full breath, nice and slow. Noticing what's changed about your lung capacity. Notice where there's still work being done in your body. Feel where there's tingles, vibrations, evidence that you have changed your physical way of being, at least momentarily. And know that you can continue breathing mindfully, and it will keep on sending this signal to your body, whether you're in a very stressful situation or if you are relaxing. If you're aware of how you're breathing, you are actually changing your way of being. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again.